Hello everybody, Vieco here, manager of Croatia Bulldogs, and welcome to this video that is long overdue, to be honest, in which we will go over the most important moments and highlights of our round 3 match of the Proces League against the Turkey Knights, which happened 3 weeks ago or something like that, but unfortunately only now I have been able to get around it after analyzing the games and doing a bunch of other stuff. So as you see from the score above me, this was our first victory of the season. It was a tight match in which we managed to prevail after the last round. We sent our Super IM team, which won the qualifier, that is Tuan Minhoe, Leon Livajic, Jadranko Plenča, and Sven Tica. Whereas the Turkey Knights, well, they had three grandmasters: Alexander Ipatov, former world junior champion, Batuhan Dastan, and their free agent from Italia, I believe, Francesco Rambaldi. And on the forward they sent their 18 or 19-year-old international master Kemkan Gokerkan. So once again, before the match, we were on the back foot, so to speak. We were definitely underdogs. But even though the Turkey was doing very, very well up to that point, they were in the playoff zone. I kind of thought that we might have our chances, that they are not so as overpowered as, for example, India or China or even Armenia, which has been doing really, really well. Okay, so let's go over the games. So even though we won the match in the end, spoiler alert, things didn't quite go well in the first round because Tica lost against Ipatov and Plenča also lost against Dastan, I believe. Yes, against Dastan. So Leon drew his game, and here we join the action in the game between Tuan Minhoe and Kemkar Gokerkan, or Kemkar Gokerkan Tuan Minhoe, in which Tuan was playing the black pieces, and after some maneuvering and some adventures, this position has been reached, in which black is a pawn up for the moment, but white it has a very active king and very active pieces, and this knight on a3 is somewhat stranded. And actually, in the position, white has a very, I mean, not very, very simple, but simple drawing move, and that is bishop e8. Attacking this pawn and actually winning it, because black is unable to defend it, because if he tries to play king to g5, then after bishop takes h5, king takes h5, knight to f4 check, it is objectively a draw. So, yeah, fortunately, our white missed this, and he played king to c5, which is a logical move. But then, after the further play, king to e5, obviously this is not a good pawn to take, because then the other pawn would decide the issue. So the game went bishop e8, which was a bit too late, and after bishop to g4, knight to e3, after bishop f3, Tuan went on to win the game convincingly. So I won't delve into it. Bishop d7, king h4, knight to g4, king to f4, knight to f6, bishop to g2, and now this pawn decided the issue. After knight d5 check, bishop takes d5, king takes d5, king f3, f2 fell, and king e5, king takes f2, king f4, king e2. The game was relatively simply decided after Tuan even won this b4 pawn after the subsequent knight c2. There was simply nothing for white here, and yeah, this was a simple technical task. But it was you know, kind of a lucky. I mean, it's not lucky, but one where a luck, so to speak, where things went into our way, because bishop a8, it's not an impossible move to find, considering that this pawn is unable to go forward because the knight controls this square. So yeah, this was actually a very important win, because you know, if he withdrew, we would be 2 points down, and it would already be quite difficult. Okay. So going back to the round 2 game, so in round 2 we managed to finally get the tide turning, so to speak. So even though Sven, or I think Sven lost again, or I don't remember whether he drew in the second or the third round. Let me just recheck that briefly. I apologize for that. So I should have checked it earlier. So yeah, actually. Yeah, okay, yeah, Sven also drew his game. So we had two draws there, and so Tuan also drew, and Sven also drew. And actually now we joined the action in the game between Bulldog or Leon Levajic and Kemkar Gokerkan, let's say their lowest rated player. And actually Leon has been winning here for basically out of the opening. He had a massive advantage earlier, and okay, he didn't convert very optimally, but he never relinquished his advantage, and this was a very nice end to the game. So here Black played, he could have maybe tried something like e5, after which obviously you can't take because your rook is hanging, but you play something like king to g4, and after e takes f4, h4, you still have, probably the winning advantage, but it's not so easy any longer. There, the technical task with the opposite color bishops and this active rook after, for example, rook c3 is much more difficult, although it is objectively winning. Fortunately, his opponent here played rook to c3 check, introducing maybe some rook to b3 ideas. But after king to g4, bishop to b4, preventing rook a5, and now really threatening rook to b3. Leon played rook to f5 check, king to g6, and now rook to b5, attacking the bishop. And here Black blundered under pressure, even though his position is objectively lost. He played rook takes b3, a takes b3, and now he probably means that after a2 there is this rook b6 check, king somewhere, and rook a6, and the pawn is caught. So I guess he realized that only in this moment, therefore he played bishop to c3, but after rook to b6 check, king f7, rook a6, bishop to b2, h4, he resigned because, or maybe he even flagged because, yeah, he doesn't have any counterplay, this pawn is just going to be pushed, and this a3 pawn is not going anywhere. So this was an important win with which we leveled the scores, and even more importantly, Yadranko played against their best player, against Alexander Ipatov, and here we joined the action. Yadro was doing quite well out of the opening, but then he played a bit too aggressively, I would say, and landed in objectively inferior position, but the one where he had a lot of compensation. So he's currently a pawn down, but he has ample compensation for the pawn due to his active pieces and two bishops. And here he actually played what I consider a beauty of this match. So here he played e5, opening this d file for the rook, and after d takes e5, rook to d2. He's now introducing some pins along the second rank and also threatening to win the b2 pawn. And now, it's not so easy for white. He's objectively winning. I'm not saying Black's conception is objectively correct, but it is very tricky to deal with in the game. So apparently the best move here is just something like e4, giving up this b2 pawn and then taking it from there. Although it looks very crazy to allow this bishop c5 check for the moment, but they're just not budging anything, because of something like rook takes b2, you have a move like rook c1 or something, and you just play it slowly here. But yeah, and for example, the immediate rook h to c1 doesn't quite work, because then after f takes c5, bishop takes c5, there is once again rook takes g2, a tactic that will appear in the game. So it was important to stifle this bishop, that is the whole idea. But okay, after b4, Yadro played very strongly. He played f takes e5, bishop takes e5, and now rook takes g2 check. Amazing tactical shot, which objectively leads to a drawn position or to equal position, but the one that is very difficult to play for white. And after king takes g2, rook takes e2 check. Now probably the best move is just king to g2, trying to defend this pawn, and that's what Ipatov did. But after rook takes e3, you see the difference. If the pawn was on e4, then this capture wouldn't be possible, and this entire sacrifice wouldn't be possible. But now this bishop is a monster. Black has problems on f3, his bishop is also under attack, and he already has to find some computerish defense, starting with b5. I refer you to the full report where I have analyzed all these games in great detail. But yeah, for the moment, it's not so easy, and actually Black is in no risk here, and actually has very decent winning chances, and that's exactly what happened. White played rook h e1, defending this bishop, and after rook takes f3 check, he played king to h2, And here black simply took another pawn, bishop takes b4. So now Jadro had 2 pawns for an exchange and open position for his bishops. And after the moves like rook f1, rook to e3, he played bishop to f4, rook to e2. I think that bishop g3 is probably better, just because now then rook e2 check would be met with rook f2. But yeah, it was a very tough position to play for white, and after bishop to f4, rook to e2 check, king to g3, rook to g2 check, king to h3, rook to g4. Jadro just managed to create enough counterplay now with bishop g2 threat and some other stuff. So after bishop g3, he played bishop to d6, and here Ipatov wandered under a lot of pressure, even though I think that black's position is close to being won, or if not won. So after bishop takes d6, bishop to g2, king to h2, bishop takes f1. Here he blundered, he played bishop takes c7, and after king takes c7 he resigned because this rook endgame, rook takes f1 is just lost, but black would just collect both pawns and then went on to queen. Here possibly just retreating the bishop, bishop to g3, bishop to g3 gave some practical hopes of salvation, even though with 2 pawns it is clear that black is the one in the driver's seat and going to convert, going to play for the win here. So yeah, I mean, in general, Ipatov didn't have the best day. He only scored 1.5, but okay. I mean, to an extent, games such as this can affect your performance. Considering that he lost this in round 2, it definitely affected his subsequent play. Okay, so after 2 rounds, we were there for very, very nicely. We have equalized the score, and now we faced a really, really big optimism when going into round 3, and which once again went very well for us. So mainly due to the following game by Tuan Minghue, sorry, yeah. So he has been playing his favorite dragon against Batu Handastan, and here he. Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot. I think we had actually 2-point lead at this moment. So let me just recheck that briefly. So yeah, in the third round, Minghue won, Bulldog drew, Jadro drew, and Sven lost. So I missed something somewhere. Yeah, okay, never mind. I may have faltered somewhere. I'm pretty sure that we entered the last round being up 1 game up. So maybe Jadro didn't lose his first game. Maybe I was wrong. So yeah, I should have prepared for this before making the video. But now you have to forgive me. Yeah, okay. So, or maybe I have something wrong. So we were down 1 game after the first round. Then we won 2 games and. No, I apologize. Yeah. We were up 1 point after the round 2. So we were losing by 1 point after the first round, and then we were leading after the second round, and then in the third round, Sven Tica lost, Jadro and Leon drew, and this win by Tuan Minghue managed to maintain our lead by 1 point. Yeah, so sorry about that. It was a long time ago. I forgot what was happening. So yeah, we are joining the action in the game between Minghue and Batu Handastan, and Minghue played the black pieces and played his favorite dragon setup. And he has had a slightly better endgame the whole time, but his opponent played precisely. And okay, they reached this complicated rook endgame where Minghue was a pawn up, and his opponent didn't defend precisely, but it was very, very difficult. And long story short, we have reached this position where they repeated the move. So they played rook f3, king e2, rook e3, king d2, rook f3, king e2, and now it was. I think that this is a relatively simple draw. So Minghue played rook to c3, and here I don't say that often, and I don't find precise solutions in endgames very often, but here it was I managed to find during the stream that white had a very easy draw with rook takes f4, and if rook takes c2 check, I guess that that Minhue's opponent missed it after king to d3, that he doesn't play king to d3, but that he plays king to d1, because if he plays king to d3, there is rook c3 check, and then we take on b3, and then it's a completely different story. But after king to d1, the king is attacking the rook, and our b4 pawn is under attack, and there is nothing black can do. It's just a dead draw after a move like rook somewhere, and then rook takes b4. Fortunately, white didn't play that. He played king to d2, defending the c2 pawn. But now after f3, black has a dream position, the rook on the side of the pawn, and he will be in time to defend the b4 pawn, or even if he manages to let it fall, he'll bring his king over, and this f pawn will decide the issue. White's queenside pawns are much further away from the queening squares than black's pawns. And after the rook f4, king to c5, rook to f5, king to d6, rook to f8, king to e5, rook to f7, king to e4, you see that this king is ready to support the pawn, and I think that here it was better just to try to maintain the rook here, not to allow the crossing of the king. But here white already lost control. I mean, even that is winning, but black would need to be more inventive. Here after rook to e7 it was very simple, king to f4, rook f7, king to g3, rook to g7, king to f2, bringing the king in front of the pawn. And now white played rook to g4, going after the b4 pawn, but it was too late here. Minhue played very precisely. He played rook to e3, and rook takes b4, and now rook to e2 check. And after king to d1 he played, not my day obviously. So after king to d1 he moved the king to e3, and after rook to b1 he didn't blunder rook e8, but he played rook e8. But he played rook to d2 check, forcing the king somewhere away from the pawn, and after king to c1 he played rook to d4, just preparing to put the king to block the annoying checks from behind, and this was just all over. After rook to h8, f2, rook to h1, rook to g4, rook h3 check, king to e4. This pawn is unstoppable, and white resigned. So yeah, as I was finally figured out, after this game we entered the final round with 1 point lead. We have maintained our lead, and I know that it was going to be a hell of a show. I was really nervous, but I hoped that we might be able to preserve our lead. And fortunately enough, this is exactly what happened. Okay, this went all the way back to the starting square. I didn't want it. So Sven Tica, unfortunately, who had an off day, he lost quickly. But Tuan Minhue won relatively quickly. And as the other game was progressing, and he was an exchange down, but he had a fortress. Leon was playing his game against Batuhan Dastan, and we joined the game at this moment. So Leon had some slight edge out of the opening, then he made a wrong strategical decision and entered into a somewhat worse position. But it's not so easy. So here black's d5 pawn is under attack, and black's best course of the action is probably just to defend it with something like knight f6 and then take it from there, even though after queen to f5 it's very complicated nevertheless. However, black took a faulty decision and he played knight takes g3, h takes g3, and he was probably counting on taking when rook takes on e3, rook takes e3 here. But he probably misjudged that after queen takes d5, queen takes d5, rook takes d5, he doesn't have time to capture one of these pawns, because if he tries rook takes a3, rook to d7, then suddenly white is the one who has some activity. Black should probably have enough to save a draw, but it's already very unpleasant. So yeah, probably the whole idea was not very bright. And he played rook e5 here, but here Leon played very strong e4, exploiting the spin on the d file, and basically forcing black to take on e4. And now it's just worse, because after rook takes e4, queen takes d5, queen takes d5, rook takes d5, maybe it was wiser not to exchange queens, but it's also kind of natural. And now you see that this rook is not on the third rank, in the pawns on a3 and g3 are not attacked even. And here black should have just retreated to the 7th rank and claimed that this pawn is not important. But he played rook to e3, which is a clear loss of tempo compared to previous variation. And after rook d7, he decided to go back nevertheless with rook a to e7, rook takes e7, rook takes e7. But now after king to f2, preventing all sorts of activities on the e-file, white was clearly in the driver's seat. And it is surprising how well Leon played from this point. I think that he played this endgame as a machine. So after rook to d7, king to e3, f6, or it's already very unpleasant for black, because this pawn majority is much more dangerous than this pawn majority with which is not even a majority with double pawns. So after rook to e7, king to d3, rook to e6, a4, obviously intending b5, king to e7, king b5, king sorry, 8x b5, 8x b5, king to e7, rook to a1. Now maybe the rook e5 was the only defensive try, and maybe rook a1 was a bit rushed. The point is here that after king to c4, rook to e4 check, king to c3, king to d7, rook to a7, king to c8, rook to a8, king to c7, rook to g8, which is just what happened in the game. We can try to play very actively with rook to g4, rook takes g7, and now king c8. And okay, this counterplay on the g pawns and the fact that the capture of them will come with check might be just enough to salvage black. However, black played more passively, and this is an instructive moment that you should always play actively in the rook endgames. And after rook a7, king c8, rook a8, king to c7, rook to g8, now this rook is not on g4, and it's a huge difference, because after rook to e7, king to d4, now it's very hard for black to brief and to move. And perhaps after, maybe g4 here is the only chance, but it's already very difficult to suggest an advice here. And after rook to d7, king to c4, rook to e7, just waiting. Well, was just winning after b6 check, king to d7, and now rook b8. With huge threat of rook b7, almost irrespective of what black does. And indeed, after king to e6, he just took, okay, he played king b5 first, sorry. And here, after king f5, desperation, he just took rook takes b7. But even if black played something else, let's say rook d7, you can probably just take or go rook c8, rook c7 with a winning position. Or even c6. But okay, rook to b7 was very, very, very nice. And it actually sent me into ecstatic mood because I knew that this was the moment. And after rook takes b7, c6, rook e7, c7, rook e8, b7, black resigned. I went crazy and we definitely won the match. Okay, in the end, Yadro lost his game, which was objectively drawn. He even had one situation here, could have taken the opponent's rook. But okay, it wasn't important. And with this, we scored our first victory of the season. And okay, at the moment of filming this, the last victory of the season. But at that time, it seemed that it was a huge, huge heartening boost, and there were some possibilities that we might even go into the playoffs if our next matches went well. I hope that was very quickly killed in the next match against Russia, for which I'm going to make a highlights video with great pain very, very soon. Okay, so thank you everybody for watching this video. Yeah, I should probably be more systematic next time and better prepared, but yeah, what can you do? If you want to watch the entire analysis in entire games, you can find the link below to the post where I have included them all, and also I will link, maybe if not immediately, sometimes in the future, I will post a link to the free PGN downloads where you will be able to download all our games from the Pro Chess League, along with many other games I have analyzed for the blog and stuff in PGN format. So yeah, if I don't know when that will appear, that's something I need to figure out, but it is a plan to have it in the near future. So thank you for watching and goodbye for now.